Relax, take it easy.
Yes, guys, today we've got Nathan Styles on the podcast, aka Biggest Smoke. Should we get started, boys?
Yeah, man.
How are we going to run that? So we've got a couple of questions that we want to ask you, just as I think we're going to start doing that with everyone that comes on. So a list of just questions, and then we can go on over all the other questions that people have asked. How should we do it? Do you want to start with
the base questions?
Yeah, Nathan, what got you into bodybuilding?
Do you know what? Cliche as it sounds, well, my dad, I can remember my dad used to compete as an amateur natural. I can remember going to watch his show actually in Redcar. Redcar, is that up near you, really?
That's right near me, mate. Yeah, it's on my doorstep. It's where my partner's from. Yeah,
Redcar. So I can remember him competing in the natural north of Britain, and I was about 5. I can remember going to watch him, and I can remember having it recorded on like VHS, and I used to watch the video back and stuff like that, even growing up. So yeah, my dad used to take me down to the gym with him, old school gym, just like smelled like sweat, chalk bins everywhere, clunking iron. He used to take me when my mum were at work. He used to go down to train. He used to sit me in the reception. I used to sit, have a flapjack and a milkshake, and just chill there. And I think it kind of bred into me from there, really.
How does that compare to obviously now training at Ultraflex with a lot of these guys? Because you train at Ultraflex, don't you?
Yeah,
no, S20, don't you?
S20 physique at the minute. Like I sometimes pop back up to Ultraflex every now and again, but S20 more like from last 6 to 8 weeks of prep. Like Ultraflex is about 40 minutes from me, and you know, right. Like when you're in the last 8 weeks of prep, like 40 minutes drive there, 40 minutes.
You don't want to spend too long in the car.
I haven't got that concentration span. So S20 is 15 minutes from me. I used to work there as a PT. It feels a little bit more like home. It's just easy.
Is S20 a bit quiet? Is it S20 a bit quieter as well, Nathan?
It is a little bit quieter, yeah. And they've got great kit. I mean, you can progress in any gym, but they've got great kit. They've got some like Atlantis, Hammer Strength, like Nautilus. They've got Cybex stuff coming, so it's a good gym.
Because I can imagine as well with it being you. Because even for me, when you're in those last weeks of prep, you just want to get in, get your work done, and get out, don't you? And when I was going to Ultraflex, like everybody wants to ask you questions and they want to be nice, but you've barely got the mental energy to get to training, do you? So like to then take the time out and talk to people and people that are up your sets, it starts to annoy you a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean
that's why I asked because.
Go on, John. Well, I'm going to say like because sorry, mate. Go on.
Like I can imagine, like Ultraflex, like what Hilly just said. There's a lot of people. You turn up and you're like, arse end at prep, and you're like, I just want to get my workout in and go home, but you can't because a lot of the time you get all these people. They want to chat to you, take pictures. So you just think like it's probably a lot better for you to train in a smaller, more like secluded gym.
Yeah, exactly that. I worked there as a PT for 3.5 years, and I prepped there in 2017 when I was a PT there. So they know when to talk to me and not to talk to me. Like they kind of just, you know what I mean? Like I come in the gym with my headphones on. So if I've got them on when I walk through the door, you know, like
that's the don't talk to me sign.
Yeah, Nate's on his arse. We'll leave him alone.
That's that 2017 prep, that because we spoke about this with Ryan, didn't we, on the podcast? And was that your first? Was that a PCA show that you did with him?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was my second competition.
How much did you weigh?
2017 was that the Jordan Peters?
Yeah,
one.
Yeah, 240.
How much did you weigh then?
240 pounds on stage then.
Right, and your last how did you weigh on your last showing?
in Italy for the pro card win, I was 294 on the morning of the show. But that was £10 up from the £10 up from the regional. I was filled to
because
flights as well.
you're on £300.
I was full of Anadrol and sushi for the Italy show.
Well, I was just going to say, I was reading your journal on Trained by JP Forum, and you literally ate up the whole week, didn't you? With some stuff to keep you dry, was it?
Yeah.
Was that diuretics to keep you dry as you're eating up, like aldactone or something, or was it a bit of diazide towards the end, or no diuretics, vitamin C?
So I had aldactone in the background from like 3 weeks. So the peak week of the regional, we ran 25 mg of aldactone in the PM, and I just ran that all the way through until to the regional, and I actually did 25 mg in the morning as well on show day. Then I literally ran 25 mg in the PM until the Thursday before the first pro qualifier, because I literally flew out. So I competed on the Sunday regional, flew out to Austria on the Tuesday, competed in Austria on the Saturday, and then flew out to Italy on the Monday and competed in Italy on the following Saturday. So I just like literally ran it all the way through. And then from the first pro qualifier in Austria, Thursday, I popped in 12.5 mg of aldactone meal 3, 25 mg meal 6. Friday, I went 25 meal 3, 25 meal 6. Show day morning, 25 in the morning. And then literally just repeated that to the Italy show. Then the Italy show, I did half a diazide on top of that for the pro card win in the evening. And then for the pro show, we did half a diazide at night and half a diazide in the morning as well.
Nice.
Interesting.
Were you intentionally trying to, I suppose naturally to a degree, are diuretics something that pull a lot of fullness from you? Were you intentionally trying to eat over the diuretic to a degree, or was this something where you were eating so much food you just managed your fluid?
That's the first time I've ever used them, mate.
Oh, really?
When you're 300 pounds, you can't really get flat, can you?
Well, yeah, which we figured out in Austria. I got flat quite quick, literally in the space of 2 hours, and that was just water. That was just hydration. Like if I pull water, I literally my legs will stay full because my legs are always full, but my upper body just deflates. So we literally ran the same protocol. Yes, so we ran the same protocol in terms of food and water for the Austria show as we did for the regional. But I was on stage about 2.5 hours after, so I think I had like 1.5 litres from morning to standing on stage. But because it was like 2.5 hours after, I can remember taking some shots with Callum about midday without even pumping up, and I looked full, I looked bang on, I looked hard, I looked dry. And then 2.5 hours after, started pumping up, but I'd literally not had any more fluid, just nothing happened. And I'm like, fuck. But it's gone then, you're not pulling it back.
Because initially, people like to, for a long time, aldactone was always run for a minimum of sort of 10 days.
Yeah.
Because it reaches a peak level and then you can learn to control it. It only seems to be a new thing, and I don't really know why.
Just
people are running it.
Do these blind
yeah. People are running it for like shorter periods of time, and as if it's a diazide. And I don't think that gives you the ability to learn where you need to keep your fluid, because it's not like diazide. The aldactone's then constantly in your system, which is not a problem as long as you know how you're managing it, which is exactly what they were doing.
Whereas, you've got to build it, don't you?
Yeah, because once it reaches a peak level, it's just flushing water a bit harder, but continuously. So then you can learn to control it like anything else. But if you just yo-yoing it in, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. No, it worked nice. It worked really nice. I mean, that's the first time I've ran it, but I could tell as soon as it had took hold, it probably took about 5 days to take hold. As soon as it took hold, I could literally tell as soon as I woke up in the morning, I'm like, fuck, that's new levels of dryness that I've not seen before.
Yeah.
And it just,
and like you say, you've just got to then make sure you know how to change your water to adapt with the aldactone, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Just to go back to with your dad in training, Nave. So how early did you start training? I suppose from a genetic standpoint, a lot of people will be interested to know. Were you like naturally a bigger kid? Obviously, you're 900 foot tall, but like structurally, were you a heavily muscled kid?
Yeah, so I mean, I played football from being 8 till I sacked football off about 21. I've had a couple of bad knee injuries, which I've had 2 knee operations. That I fell out of love with it anyway. I kind of got into bodybuilding then. I got into training, and I think I shot up. I had my first like proper growth spurt when I was in college, and I literally just filled out, and I probably grew quite a bit as well. So I was a bigger lad at like 17, 18, 19, 20. I was like the biggest lad naturally out of my group of friends. And because as soon as we'd sort of left school, I joined the gym, and I was training 3-4 times a week as well. Going in the college gym with the football team and stuff like that, I kind of just developed naturally. I mean, I can remember when I was playing football at like 20. I was playing football at 16 stone, 16 and a half stone.
Fucking hell, yeah.
Where did you play? What position?
Uncomfortable.
Well, I was centre midfielder when I was a little bit younger, but then I stopped being able to move as much, so they just stuck me up. Yes, they stuck me up top. I'm a big target man. I've got a big arse. My arse is massive, so they used to just knock me the ball and just hold it up. That was my game.
Yeah.
What did you play? Semi-pro?
Yeah. Do you know what? Like, and this is not being a big head or anything, but kind of anything that I took my hand to, like all the way through school. Like, if I'd have stuck with it, I'd have probably got to an half decent level. So I played at Rotherham United till I was 16, then I got released. And then I went to Chesterfield. And then when we were at Chesterfield, I played against Sheffield Wednesday reserve side, and they asked me to go for a trial. So I went on an 8-week trial with Sheffield Wednesday reserves. Played in their reserve team a couple of times. But didn't get a contract. So then I went back to college, and then I represented my college side at like national level, captained the college side, and then I got a scholarship to America, to a university to America to go and play like soccer over there and study. But in the build up to me going in the following July, I had a bad cruciate knee injury playing semi-pro, which just fucked me really. I was out for 18 months. I was never the same when I came back. So
I think people don't realize how good you have to be at semi-pro football as well. Like that's not a shit. That's a very high level of football.
I played at a decent standard. Like I got paid. I got paid to play semi-pro. Like, not a lot. Like it was like 80, 100 quid a game, but it was a decent standard then.
Yeah, it's a good amount of money though, isn't it?
Yeah, it weren't bad. And that's when I really got cracking in the bodybuilding after that, really.
And now you spend that much on about a few growth kits for a few days.
£100 a month, mate, a minute.
Yeah, fucking hell.
Just to go back to the last year's competitive season, something we spoke about that I found really interesting, and I think people would find interesting too, is the show tan. Because you've got a different strategy to doing your tan, especially as you compete very proximal to quite a lot of shows stacked together. Can you go over, because I remember I was speaking about, and I found that really interesting, about how you go about your tan, because I think it's quite different to what most people do.
I can't remember what I told you last time, but
well, you said you started to you applying Protan on the Wednesday. So you apply it over. Yeah.
Yes. So for the Saturday show, for the regional, I think I applied it actually. I think I did my shave, my exfoliation, everything on the Wednesday, and I started applying it on the Thursday. So I did a base coat on the Thursday, and then I did another coat on the Friday. I think I might have done 2 coats actually on the Friday. Then I went and had my actual first coat done with 2 rows. Then I wake up in the morning and get thieves to go over me again with a Protan. So I make sure that it's on point.
Soaked in properly.
Because your tan was really on point last year. That's one thing that I remember seeing, and I thought, fuck me, the tan is spot on. There's a lot
Yeah.
of people saying to mess up the tan. And if you mess up the tan, that makes, I remember my tan was fucking dreadful. So that makes a big difference.
Well, what I've
We're gonna have a
experienced,
lot of people doing.
yeah, well, what I've experienced in the past is because I sweat quite a lot. So if I've had, which I didn't this year, nowhere near as much, and that was just down to posing fitness. Like, Phoebe's fucking drilled me all prep. But previously, I thought I could pose, but as soon as I started posing on stage, I was fucking melting. And if you've had your show tan done in quite close proximity to either stage or it's not fully dried, as soon as you start sweating, it just looks dreadful. So this time I made sure that it was literally soaked in on my skin. I didn't use too much glaze, and that was the most comfortable and most confident I felt on stage with not only my tan but with like me sweating as well. Like I didn't even really sweat until the pose down in any of my shows, and that's just because I got a bit carried away.
How did you maintain that tan from show to show?
Do you know what? Like I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything special. So the night of the show, I just used that Protan body buff. Just make sure I have a good shower, body buff any excess off, and then it kind of just sits. It's like a nice base coat, and I just make sure that I moisturise daily so it's not dry up until like the Wednesday, and then I'll start the process again.
That was always common for a very long time. Again, it's funny how these things change and they don't change for the better. Like when I did my first show, God knows how long ago, you did start putting coats on Thursday night, Friday morning, Friday night, Saturday. People would build the coat up. And I think it's just out of sort of laziness in these, because you can now get it done at the show that everybody whacks it on the night before and the morning of. And I don't think it definitely gives you the best look at all, to be honest.
No.
And I don't think you can expect it to.
I don't think people understand how it works either. Like Nate said about building it up, you can put it on and shower. Like people think because it's a base layer, you're going to get patchiness. Like the best way to do it is to get a base layer on, sleep in it, shower, get another base layer on, sleep in it, and shower. And just over time, it'll build up. But as you boys know, it's something I'm a bit autistic with, is tanning. Like it makes the biggest difference if you get it right. It's the same way let's take James Hollinshead's skin compared to Riz's. If any of them go to a Two Bro show, they get the same amount of tan on. That's ridiculous. Like if you're a pale pasty kid, you're setting yourself up to failure if you're not getting 5, 6, 7 layers on prior, then getting the tan sprayed on, and then getting a touch up done afterwards. You know?
Yeah. Well, the pros between the pros now, or the experienced pros between prejudging and finals in the States, they'll do prejudging. They'll go back to their hotel. They'll shower, and then they'll get a fresh coat before finals.
I've seen that.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
It does make sense because you've seen yourself, even in these European amateur shows, you do prejudging in the morning. Like I think, did you go out to Alicante, Hilly?
Yeah.
So you'll do prejudging in the morning. You might have 3 to 5 hours between your finals because you've got all the classes, and the people come back on for the finals, and the tan looks like shit because they've been sat round, they've been sat on the floor, they've not had a top up. It's like run, they sweat. It just don't look the same. So yeah, it's
like you said,
it's very important.
Like you said, Dave, when I watch the YouTube show days of like the top level pros, that you're getting a coat, having a shower, getting a shower, then they're going, like Nate says, for coats after prejudging because the ones later on in the night and stuff, and it's all been built up. And I just don't think you can expect to lather it on the night before and then lather it on again in the morning and it just to sit. And I know some of them, they're trying to put it on like an hour before you get on stage. I've seen it some shows and I'm like, that's a terrible idea. And then not just that, if you've got a darker skin, so like James did a regional and they put I don't know why they put so much tan on, but his skin went like a matte black.
Yeah.
And he lost. So the pictures he'd sent me in the morning, right? We did trial all week where I was making him get pictures done at lunchtime and at 5 p.m. every day of the week, right? So we could keep the lighting the same, the timing the same, and adjust the fluid. And when I was stood with him at the regional, I was like, what the fuck have you done different? Because this is drastically off. And he was like, oh, well, I put some extra tan on last night and then they put 2 or 3 layers on this morning. I was like, mate, you're a black kid, mate. Like, why have you put extra fucking tan on? But it soaked into his skin, and it took away everything. You could feel the thickness in his skin where it was nuts how it
It
changed.
was like play, doesn't it?
Yes,
Because
yeah,
it sits
it
on
really
top.
did.
It sits on top, doesn't it?
And I just thought, surely those tanning companies and girls should know not to do that.
Bro,
What
they
do you
don't give a
expect?
flying fuck, man. They fuck up loads of people's turn.
I was watching
Yeah,
the Fuad podcast yesterday, and did you see Roman Fritz on there saying that he bribed the Romanian tanners €100 so they would keep tanning them both, so they would be able to go back in and keep getting tans because they're only told they can only do one coat.
Yeah,
Mate,
yeah, I saw that.
I competed with Roman in Italy last year, and he's got to say he's fucking one of the nicest guys I've met in bodybuilding.
I can imagine that.
Yeah, he's such a fucking good guy. He's got so much time and just wants to talk to people. And he he kept going back to the tanners. They must have been pissed off with him. He went back about six times. Just do this, just do that. And he was the darkest there, but he kept going back. He's like a stickler for his tan.
Yeah, because he's a super pale kid, isn't he? You see,
Yeah.
But then
Yeah,
I
you
saw on the
spend all this
podcast.
money. You spend all this money on gear, growth, food, and do you know what I mean? You might spend another 200 quid on your tan, innit? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I remember one of the finals Corin did, and she looked absolutely nuts. And she came second, and her literally feedback from the judges was, it was your tan. And she was fuming because, if I remember rightly, she had gone to someone else, or she'd queried it, and they were like, no, it's fine. But like you say, to do all of that work, I mean, we know how Corin suffers to be in shape in the shape she gets in, and the dark places we've all got to go to get there. To then be told that you missed out on first place because your tan is off is a big kick in the nuts for you, isn't it?
I think doing it yourself is the way forward, to be honest.
Yeah.
You got full control. You ain't got to wait. Someone's spraying you on. They're rushing about. They're getting paid. It's their job to. They don't give a flying fuck.
Oh, well,
Mate.
some of these shows, they've got 99 people all stood in the same small room trying to touch us all up at the same time.
Yeah, sweating. Fuck that.
Yeah. Well, when I had my first coat of tan in Italy, they didn't speak a word of English, and literally she just wasn't bothered at all, and she just like went like that, turned around, went like that, and I kept saying like, "What about this? What about that?" And she's like, "No, that's fine." I'm like, "This looks fucking dreadful." I come coming out and ringing Phoebes and saying, "Phoebes, you're gonna have to go back to the apartment, get that show that pro tan." I said, because they fucked my tan up. Phoebes flew back to the apartment and she tanned me up in toilets.
That's the best way, man. Honestly,
Well,
you
it's
got full
just
control.
Extra stress though, do you?
It's just a fucking bullet. You spent 125 quid on a tan and they fuck it up.
And it's shit. Yeah.
But I think what Hilly did is the best thing. Get the base tan and let your boys sort out the dream tan on the day.
Yeah.
Spent about an hour doing it, an hour doing the glaze, and that was it. We just chilled, zero
Did
stress.
anyone watch the Spain show? Obviously, the lighting in that was absolutely phenomenal. But there is no way 90% of those dudes did not have a top layer of that red bronze dream tan on. You can see it, man. They've got that like real glossy look. It doesn't look like pro tan to me, especially the Spanish dudes.
It is. They're putting the red tan on top.
Yeah.
Just dabbing it on.
Yeah.
I didn't think the MP allowed.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, that's what they say, Charles. They say it's banned, but I think, Joe Bollinger's been doing it from day dot. Like, I know everybody uses it as like a top coat. It's not, obviously the gold one is quite detectable. The red bronze one, which is for the black lads, it's like, it just gives you like a nice glittery shimmer on top, so it's not really detectable.
Riz, what did
The thing
you
is-
use with Hilly? Hilly, what was the one you used?
Gold.
Gold.
No, red, bronze.
Obviously, red.
Oh, yeah,
I
it
was
was
going
it.
to say, because you got a whole bunch now, didn't you? You ordered a shitload of it, didn't you?
I got red, bronze, and I got the gold stuff. I think the gold stuff sits all right on the Asian lads, or if you're black. But the red, bronze one's better if you're obviously white. 'Cause
Right.
If not,
It gave a real nice, but it was the application as well. Like when Riz and D did it and when Deck did it, they spent so much time making sure that it was evenly spread and there was tiny bits.
we didn't roll it on. We
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Van done for me, because he done my tan, he just tapping it.
I
How
was
painful
spreading
it
it
is
out.
when you're like an hour out and you got to fucking stand still for an hour while someone puts tan on you. It's the worst part of any day.
Oh, I was just stood there for ages. Like when Deck was doing it in the room because I was that dehydrated, I was literally at one point I had to lean over and rest on the window where I thought I was going to fucking fall over. You know, when you're going a bit dizzy and that, I was like, oh. Yeah.
Shall we?
Next question, boys. Have we got the set questions?
What's
Should we
next
look
show plans then, Nate?
on the on that people asked, or
You what,
just to
George?
break it up?
Yeah.
Should we do some of the questions?
Speak up, Judd.
Yeah, fire away, whatever you want, mate.
Nathan, you said you're using £700 for growth a month.
Yeah, so 8 IU at the minute on training day, 6 on non-training day.
Farmer.
Is that
Farmer,
split?
farmer.
Maybe we should talk about that.
Which
the
one are you
generic
using?
versus pharma. What's your thoughts? Because we've all said what we think, but we want to see what you think.
Night and day, mate. Night and day difference.
Yeah.
Night and day. I mean, I'm lucky. I'm lucky in the sense that I've got a link. Guys, I get 3 or 4 30 IU cartridges straight from Peak Pharmacy off a guy whose kid's got a growth hormone deficiency. So
His kid's still really short.
kid's fucking tiny, but I'm getting. So yeah, I get a little bit of a helping hand from him, and I don't have to pay too much for that. But then I use the Pfizer pens on top of that, which obviously
How are you dosing it?
What we're using, yeah.
How are you splitting it, Nathan?
2, 2, 2, and 2. Morning, pre, post, and pre-bed. If I remember.
Do you find that makes you tired? Do you find that makes you really groggy and tired? Because I that's how I done it. Because I did 6, and I used to do 2 pre-workout, in the morning, 2 post-workout, 2 at night, and then Healy said, "Well, if you're feeling tired, just do it 3 and 3," and I actually felt a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, when you're eating this much food and you're this heavy,
I was good.
I'm tired.
I'm tired all the time.
Yeah, I'm tired all the time anyway, so it's not really. It don't really make that much of a difference. But yeah, I am tired. Oh, cheers, man. Talking about the food. Cheers.
Good service.
Good girl.
In terms of, here's one for you that I'm interested in. What's your sleep like at your weight and during prep?
Well,
Do you still sleep right?
I've got a CPAP, Hilly.
Yeah.
And
that's
don't get me wrong, it's still not fantastic, but it was before I used that. It was fucking horrific. Right, it was bad. And I mean, I don't know whether this is. It's got to be linked, but as soon as I started using the CPAP, my rate of progression catapulted because my recovery.
I'm telling you, when I got on one, me and Hilly, obviously, we were peak off season. I put on 7 pounds in the space of 2 weeks without a single shift. It shouldn't change in diet, no change in body composition. The second I was using it, I put on 7 pounds. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, 100%.
Did you notice when you started using it and your sleep got better? Were you able to eat more? Did it affect your digestion positively?
Yeah.
Did you not get the dry mouth sometimes when you first start it? You go for more pisses at night?
I've got one of those little like tanks on the back, which is like
The water, yeah.
You fill it with water and it like hydrates it a little bit, but I mean, in prep you're pissing like 3 or 4 times a night anyway, so I'll probably go for 1 in the night at the minute. So I've just kind of got used to it. To start off with, it was a nightmare because I used to sleep on my front with my hand under the pillow, and now I just obviously sleep on the back, which I'm just used to now.
And the other question I want to know is, what do you do to allow you to eat as much food? Do you do anything specific for your digestion? Or do you set your meals up in a specific way? Or just because of the ungodly amount of food you have to eat?
So I've always kept cardio in, Hilly, right? And
yeah,
it's for me, it's movement, like, and I can tell the days that I don't. If I've got a longer day of client work at the laptop and I don't move as much in between meals, they get harder to get down.
You feel it.
But if I get up and my routine is structured and I get my 20 minutes on the bike done in the morning, and I get my 20-minute dog walk done after meal 1, it kind of just sets me up for the day, and I seem to be able to manage. But if my structure gets knocked, I'm fucked.
Of course. Yeah.
We said this last week.
Yeah.
What time are you waking at the moment? What time are you sleeping to get all that food in?
Like, this is my 5th now, so what, we're on 8:45. I'm a little bit late, so I'll probably get my next one in about 10:30.
I can pause it if you want to eat. We just eat.
As long
Oh,
as you
just
don't mind. Yeah, as
Nah,
long
you
as
Don't
you
mind you
Eat,
eating.
man.
Yeah,
It,
always
eat
got
good
fun,
that
food.
ties in really with another good question I've got from someone I don't even know who he is, but he says a question for Nathan, fellow 6'5" guy here. However, I have the appetite of a child. Did you build your appetite over time, or have you always been able to eat big?
luckily, I've always been able to eat big. I think that's something that you see the bred into you. Like my mum and dad
Yeah.
are big eaters. I always got like fed well. Like I've always ate big. Like my appetite's always been big. So I've never really struggled with that. So
That's
yeah,
just man up.
yeah, it's just mad.
Yeah, just say man up.
I mean, it's not nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's not nice. It's like, at the minute, it's fucking. Callum's just put my food up again today. It's like 7,000 calories now.
So what does today look like then? Run us through it if you don't mind, because this part of the bit I find interesting.
So today got up just after 6, where I did my 20 minutes. Well, I did actually this. What I do at the minute, my daily structure at the minute, because I've got quite a few clients competing, is I'll get up at between 5:45 and 6, come straight to the laptop, sort my competitors out first. Like if they need any immediate changes for that day, the clients who are like 2, 3, 4 weeks out, I'll check them in. 7 o'clock, I'll go downstairs, have a coffee, go and jump on the bike, 20 minutes cardio, back in, shower, back to the laptop. I'll have my first meal around 8 o'clock. And at the minute, like today, my food has been so like bro food, it's unbelievable. So salmon and rice for breakfast, two meals of turkey and rice, 2 meals of beef and rice, and I'll have probably oats, which I'll blend my last meal. But that's just because it's easy to get down. Like I really struggle with cream of rice in the off season.
Yeah.
I'll go off it in the off season. I saw me the other year walking around the garden with like a cream of rice shake,
Yeah.
just to try and drink it down.
So it's
Thing
just
is,
right.
we said this
Nasty,
on the
man.
podcast last week. It's like, because I do exactly the same. I'll literally cook all my rice for the day in the morning, and I just portion it out. And it's just easy to do it that way. You know, it's
Yeah.
just easy. It's there, just scoop it out. You know, put the meal together, just eat it. You know, it's so much easier.
Bro, that's too hard for me. I'm strictly microwave rice, bro. Easy peasy, bro. Never wrong, bro.
It doesn't, for me, I think like what Nate said there, when you get to a certain level, you are just better off doing bro food, because no one's, like I say this to people all the time, it's all well and good making your meals nice and fancy, but that stuff, that soon gets boring and old, and it takes up so much of your day if you were trying to make everything pretty and different. And when you've got loads of stuff to fit in, and you've got a busy life, and you've got so much food to eat, you really just need the food there ready to rock and roll, don't you, in reality?
And when it's so much, you can only make it so fun anyway.
Yeah.
It's like when it's 150 grams of carbs a meal, it's not going to be fun no matter what you eat.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Bro, I do about 4,000 calories, and I'm sick and tired. Fuck doing 7, bro.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's not nice. I mean, we've altered it slightly in terms of, cause like my rice portions were getting up to like 150, 175 grams of uncooked weight rice. It was like 450, 500 grams of cooked weight rice a meal. Like I'm going through fucking kilo of rice a day, and I just couldn't. I was getting to a point where like I'm just struggling with these meals now. So we've cut the rice portions down. I always have a bit of fruit with each meal anyway, but I've just cut the rice portions down to like 125, and I've started adding some raisins in, some honey in, or like a Nutri-Grain bar or something like that, just to bump an easy 25, 30 gram of carb up.
I do that. AJ's just put my high days, and he sent them through, and they were like 500 grams of cooked rice portions for 3 meals. And I tried to put it in one bowl. I sent a picture to the lads, and I was like, there's no space for my meat here. There's no space for my protein. And I was like, I ain't eating that. I was like, it's just a monotonous process of spooning rice in your mouth. So
Yeah.
I do the same. At 350 grams of cooked rice, I can do comfortably.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I'll throw some sultanas in, some sweet chili sauce or something.
That's
Because when you
literally what I've got. So
yeah.
I've got turkey, jasmine rice, some red cabbage, some raisins, a bit of sweet chili sauce. I've got an apple and 2 Nutri-Grain bars.
Yeah, because my opinion is once you're getting that many carbs in a meal, it doesn't really matter what you're eating. Like, as long as it digests fine, you need to get the meal in. And sitting with 500 grams of rice, I sent the picture. I was like, it was overflowing in the bowl, and that was 400. I was like, I ain't putting 100 grams of rice in. There's fucking no chance.
Nathan, what are your like meat sources coming? What are they at the moment? Like your protein sources?
Salmon, beef, turkey. That's it. Whey protein.
Chicken? You don't do chicken?
I prefer turkey at the minute than chicken. I go off chicken every now and again.
Turkey mince for me. I find that it's easy to cook, and for some reason it's obviously because it's minced, it's easier to eat. But I just think when you're eating a lot of food, for some reason, turkey seems to go down way easier.
Yeah, it goes down easy for me. I mean the post workout. I mean I have salmon and rice pre-workout. Post workout I'll have turkey and rice with 150 grams of fruit, and then like my post workout meal is 250 grams of carb. It's fucking, and then I have 150 grams of carbs around training in cyclic dextrin as well. And my pre-workout's 175 grams of carb. So I have 2 bagels and 60 grams of jam on top of my post workout meal as well.
Yeah, you can do that post-workout, but I bet you, and I think we've kind of all done that, points where you think, oh, I'm just going to do Cocoa Pops for like 2 meals, or like bagels instead of my rice, and you try that for a couple of meals, and you find your digestion just goes to shit.
Yeah.
It's not the same as eating rice.
No, it's not.
Even if the carbs are equated.
I hate Cocoa Pops, man.
How much fluid are you putting in that much cyclic dextrin?
What, mate?
How much? Do you know you said you had 150 grams of carbs from cyclic dextrin?
Yeah.
How much fluid do you dilute that in?
So I do 50 grams of pre. So I'll do my pre-workout meal about 2 hours before, and then on the drive to the gym, I'll have a shake, like 500 ml of water, which I'll just sit driving to the gym, which will be my pump product, creatine, 10 grams of aminos, 50 grams of cyclic dextrin. I'll sit back on the way to the gym. I have a chat for 10-15 minutes, so that's like settling, and I'm not going in with a big full stomach. Then I have another 50 grams carbs intra, and then immediately post workout I'll have 50 grams of carbs, 60 grams of whey, and then I'll go home an hour later and I'll have my post workout.
How long do your workouts take normally?
2 hours, depending on what session it is. So rest day today. Yesterday pull were a good 2 hours.
Yeah, that's what it's defined when it's the push-pull legs. My workouts will just take so fucking long because by the time you've done chest, shoulders, and triceps, it takes forever. Whereas
my recovery, I mean, I don't know about you, Chud, as well, but do you know, like, your recovery between sets as you get heavier? Like, you do 2 sets of SLDL, fucking hell, that takes 30. That takes 30 minutes out of your session.
Yeah, especially if it's deadlifts. By the time you warm up and
if you've done 3 or 4 warm-ups, then a big pull, I'm gassed then for I need 3 to 5 minutes before I go again for my back off set.
Yeah. If not longer, I mean, might even take you from 10 minutes if you get like a back pump or something.
Yeah.
I noticed on your journal, were you spending some time doing a bit more volume work or more intensifying sets?
Yeah, so I brought that in here, and I enjoy training every way, mate. I just like training, so I like that. I'll literally just do anything, but I brought that in just because I was post hernia surgery.
Right.
So until I got confident with bracing and handling the loads again, I was doing a little bit more like volume and a bit more intensifiers and stuff like that, just so I weren't having to handle as heavy loads until I felt confident with that bracing again. But it feels fine now. I'm back under like heavy loads, squatting and pulling and stuff again.
This is a really good question here from Chris Swan for you, Nath.
Yeah.
Says, what are your best tips for keeping midsection in check throughout off season? And he's saying, is it vacuums? Do weight trainers have high high value, or is it the frequency of ab training? Or what do you do to keep midsection tight? Because it is very good.
So I've done both. I'll be honest with you, at the minute, I'm just training abs like 3 times a week at the start of the session. Basic stuff. At the minute, I'm not doing hanging leg raises because it's too fucking hard to hang from a.
I bet.
pull up bars are breaking in the
Yeah,
gym.
so
Yeah.
I'm just doing just like the ab crunch machine. I'm just doing things like dead bugs and things like that, just for like a bit of stability and things like that before like my pull sessions and my leg sessions. Now, last off season, I'm massively focused on vacuum control, like doing practicing vacuums. I've not done it as much this year, so I've slacked a little bit. But again, when your stomach's full all the time from eating 7,000 calories, fucking doing vacuum. Last thing on my mind is doing vacuums. Like when I do my posing practice, I can pull a semi-vacuum still, but I'm not doing them like all the time. But last season, I wore a waist trainer to do my cardio every morning. I wore a waist trainer when I walked the dogs, and I did practice vacuums after morning cardio. And I think it did benefit me. It's 100% picky. Deck's gone again.
It's shitty internet, I told him.
But it is,
Gypsy.
it's definitely picking foods that digest well, making sure your routine and structure's on point, making sure your hydration's on point, making sure your sleep's on point. Once you're pushing food, at whatever level you are, like when you're at your peak amount of food, regardless of where you are, if your routine slips and your digestion's fucked, you more or less call an end to your off season. You might have to reset because as soon as that goes, it's fucking hard to get back.
I think as well, it's for me, if you feel as if you're walking around so bloated where you can't hold your stomach in, that's what's giving you an option. Like, that's what's giving you an issue. Like, not the ability to pull a vacuum, but I know if, like you say, if my routine's on point, I've got my meals in on time, I'm using the right foods. Even when I'm 5,500, 6,000 calories, I'm not like walking around like this all the time.
No.
And I think whereas if you are walking around and your stomach's hanging all of the time because you're squeezing meals in, you're picking foods that are bloating you, that is going to give you more issues than anything else. And I don't think there's anything you can stop those issues developing, to be honest.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, all the way through this off season, even though I'm eating like food, like I could still stand up now and I'd still have a flat stomach, even like just after meal 5.
Yeah.
So, and that is just because my digestion's still in a good spot.
Do you do any like digestion drinks, or any digestion aids or anything like that in the morning?
Yeah.
Apart from like your glutamines and all that.
Well, I do have glutamine throughout the day, 2 or 3 times throughout the day. I'll have 10 grams in a shake in the morning, 10 grams in my intra, and then I'll put 10 grams in like a drink at night with like glutathione. So that does help. But Digest Pharma from Trained by JP, seamless plug, but when you're eating a lot of food, that has been a fucking godsend.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, it's been a godsend. I noticed a massive difference when they launched it and I brought it in. I noticed the difference straight away.
Are you having it with every meal or just a couple of times a day?
I have it 3 times a day. So I have it morning, evening, and then I'll have it with my post-workout as well.
Yeah.
I used to use it breakfast and pre-bed. That's
Yeah.
when I used to use it. I found it best for myself.
I just have it in.
Glutamine, apparently you're meant to use like 30 to 40 grams. If you're just using like 10 grams, it does fuck all.
What, glutamine?
That apparently, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
30 grams is a good. That's why I have that 10, 10,
Yeah.
10. 30 grams is a good
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah.
I think for stomach healing you need like 30 grams, right?
Yeah.
If I've got a client with digestive issues that thinks that it looks like they've got inflammation and stuff, then they say you need 20 to 30 grams in a bolus hit. But I think for stomach health, 20 to 30 grams over the day is the best way to go.
I've actually found recently this year, I've actually took it all out and my stomach's sound. I think with my stomach kid, I told you before, the pH isn't off. So if I fuck with it, it just sends me the other way. Apple cider vinegar used to fuck me as well.
Yeah, because that's when your pH is fine.
Yeah, my pH is fine.
I mean, I've done all that in the past. You know, that the lemon, the apple cider vinegar, and all that shit. I don't notice any difference doing all that than just sort of my routine being on point and my hydration being on point.
Yeah. I think this is where people get mixed up as well. So I'll only put that in for people if they have a bad stomach, because it's resetting the stomach. But then it doesn't need to be there all of the time. You're just taking away the damage and stuff that's been caused. Because if I put it in with someone, I'm like, you need to monitor how you feel, what it's doing. Because if your stomach pH in that is fine, then that'll actually throw it off and cause you problems. And sometimes people, and this is the same with all supplements and stuff, and we'll all know this from clients, people see someone doing something and they want to add in what everybody's doing, and half the times they end up causing themselves problems because they didn't need it in the first place.
Tell you what I think is really good. I've been using it all cardio every morning for like the past 5 months, like a hydration product. So as soon as I wake up, I take that straight away, because I go for 3 pieces every night, off season or prep. I think I wake up really dehydrated. So for me, that's really good pre-cardio all the time, year round.
What's that, like electrolytes?
Like, you know, like a Hydra Max or a Hydra Flow, or the JP.
Electrolyte drink. It's really good. I checked out my intro workout.
What's JP's one called?
Peak hydration.
Peak hydration.
Yeah, I take that on the morning before cardio.
Yeah,
they're tablets, ain't they?
Yeah.
So I do glutamine. What do? I do glutamine, a bit of CV burn, and I take the peak hydrations before I do my cardio.
I would like them to make that in a drink though, wouldn't you?
It would be nice in a drink, like a hydration drink.
But I think what makes sense is, you know, because it's not a drink, it's not got calories, so you can use it with Himbine.
Yeah. It's just that I fucking
technically.
I ain't taking more tablets. No. Well, that's why I take it first thing, because I'm not taking any tablets straight out of bed.
Yeah.
So I think it feels a bit better than adding it to the tub of tablets I've got to take with one.
Oh, God.
You find sometimes, because all these things have sweetener in them, so sometimes your intro it's just a bunch of just sweeteners, so it's not, it just messes up the flavour, and also that can upset your stomach. I find sometimes if I overdo like the too much flavorings in my intro drink, my stomach just fucks up. Like I'm not hungry like an hour after I train, and that's not normal for me normally.
Yeah, I don't use any sweeteners anymore. Nothing other than like sugar-free squash once a day.
Yeah,
and that's about it, really.
So I just do like my aminos and like one shot halfway through the workout, and just have my creatine and my carbs like as my drink through the session, so they don't all mix.
I've noticed with Jordan's stuff, and I think this goes back to what Chudley was saying, some of the flavourings upset my stomach, and obviously it's different for everybody. But what I didn't realise was I like the pina colada stevia flavour me. So I was just using that all of the time.
Yeah.
But when I started trying some of the other flavours, my stomach was off a bit, and it must have been the flavour, either the flavourings or the sweetener in it. So I find if I stick to all of the pina colada flavourings, I get no issues at all. But when some of the flavourings seem to be fine and some of them aren't, and it must be either the colouring or the sweetener in it just doesn't work well for me.
Body thinks you're on the sesh, mate, automatically uptakes it.
It's just looking for vodka to go with the pina colada flavouring one. That's what it's looking for. I was going to take some Ibiza there and mix my vodka with it, but I thought, no, you just go too far.
You got some questions for Nathan, bro, from the NGL, because people don't hold back on there. People don't ask questions normally no more.
So, have just finished a 5-month prep. We didn't hit the mark on show day, and I spilled. How do you treat it as a learn? Oh, I think that's a bullshit question. Someone's basically saying
they weren't leading.
Let me fucking condense it. So I followed him into the T, feel like I've been marked up. So I don't even know what he's asking. Oh, how do you treat it as a learning curve and stop feeling like you wasted your money for nothing? I guess like how do you treat that as a learning curve, not feel like a fuck up when you've messed up your peak, I guess.
There's that many shows. If it was just one show and you just missed the mark because your peak was wrong, then just do another fucking show if you're in shape.
What a good reply.
what
Fucking
I'm,
mega. What a good reply.
what I'm getting from that is just wait in shape. You didn't spill. You're just still fat. Right? It's as simple as that. Right? Yeah, you might have spilled, but if you spill, then you can write that within 3 to 5 days. Just pull back down
Yeah.
and just have a more moderate approach into show day. Get the look that you want and just roll in with that. And stop fucking about with stuff.
And if the guy, if whoever they're working with, should really be finding out what they did wrong and relaying it back to them anyway, that should be his money worth there.
Yeah.
They should be making notes and be like, right, I try. And part of a good coach, which is, you know, for everybody, okay, we tried this. That was my error. This is how we fix it. This is what we did wrong. They've learned from it. So like they says, if he hasn't just fucked up and he's out of shape, they should be able to pick another show 2 weeks down the line and go again and fix it. And there's your money's worth.
Literally exactly what I did with Felly at the Universe. We'd had 3 shows. We nailed the mark in the 3 shows previous. In the Universe, we tried to play the fullness card, and I used some Superdrol. The first time that I'd used it with him, and it fucked his midsection control up, fucked his digestion up on show day. And I held my hands up and I said, probably shouldn't have gone with that. He still looked great. He got 4th. If it had been the look that he'd have brought 2 weeks earlier, he'd have probably got 3rd, if not 2nd. And it was literally just down to a midsection control perspective.
Do you not find that sometimes as your client, like your client you're talking about there, he's maybe not done that many shows before and his body's just tired after a bit anyway? Like, there's only, how much can you take? How many peaks?
Yeah, mate, it was super fresh. I couldn't believe how fresh he were. Like, I've never known a prep go so smoothly and him still be fresh, and responsive, and the food be high all the way into the show, the output be low. We didn't have to mess around with anything. It was a very, very seamless prep. And he was like, he'll relay back to me and he'll tell me if it's like people. I want him to give me feedback. If they fucked, they tell me they fucked. And he was like, mate, I feel great. Like, I could go again. Like, I still feel fine. Which you can kind of tell with the physique when it starts dying off, and it weren't showing any signs of that. That's why once we'd finished the show, once we'd finished his season, we called an end to it. He literally ate what he wanted for that next week. He checked in on the Saturday and did some bodybuilding poses, and I was like, mate, you look fucking fantastic. Like, you're just you're still holding the same condition. So, do you fancy doing a show this Saturday? They're like, oh, don't tell me, missus. She'll kill me if I do another show. But we just rolled him into a show, and he did a novice and class 2 bodybuilding show and ended up taking it overall.
Fair fucking play.
And the thing with Superdrol, it's like, it can skew some people's digestion. But you're always trying to get a little bit better, aren't you?
Yeah.
And if you both and if you both discuss, like you said, you put your hand up and you were like, okay, maybe that was a bad call, but it might have been the best call you could ever make. You don't know unless you try it. You've got to try it at some point. And people, I always use Kai Green as the example. He lived with Oscar at one point in an apartment in Vegas for 6 weeks. They lived together and they still ended up making a mistake at the end. I think there's way too many people in bodybuilding that are like, oh, you fucked up, oh, you shouldn't do this. And really, the goal is always to keep getting better. And you can only learn by either trying something, it either works or it doesn't, and you both acknowledge that, take the data away, and you move on, don't you? Like, no one gets it right every time, and you can only get better by something going wrong. And too many people don't acknowledge that. You know, you've got a coach has to be, in my opinion, a coach's job is to keep trying to get better with the client, trying to make them better. And that is always not going to come out in a winning scenario, is it? It is what it is.
And kind of what you said, it's just a show. It's just one show. So just do another show and move on. Right, I've got a really good one, actually. Have you had any health concerns but ignored and pushed past to pursue size? I remember JP saying back in 2011 he was being sick and bleeding from his nose but would still continue to pound orals. Refused to go to doctors as he wanted to reach his goal. So, any health concerns that you've potentially ignored?
No, can't say that I've ever ignored them. If I've ever had anything that's skewed on blood work, I've always dealt with them. And touch wood, there's never been anything that's been massively off. I mean, my HDL is always low.
It's just my
expected. My HDL is always low. But I think I'm predisposed to that genetically a little bit, because it doesn't matter how much fucking omega-3, citrus bergamot. I've even done like the pollen therapy with lysine and vitamin C. I've literally maxed every sort of like method possible to get that HDL up. I always keep my cardio in. My blood pressure is always in range. My HDL does not want to shift.
Where does it normally sit at, Nathan? If you don't mind me asking, where do you normally see it?
It's normally sitting at like 0.5 to 0.7. I've had it as low as 0.4. It's not been above 1 for fucking house 5-6 years.
Me and Jordan have always said the amount of blood work we've seen over the last decade, and probably for 90% of people, you're lucky if you can get it to 1 in my experience.
Yeah.
I usually see, and again, I've had Jordan's Omega Pro up at like 12 gram a day. I've tried everything possible, and mine on cycle is never better. That is always about 0.6 to 0.8.
Yeah.
And even if I'm on a cruise dose and I am ticking every box, I will be lucky to see 0.9 to 1 sort of thing. And that's very rare. But every bit of blood work I look at from everybody across the board, well, say 90% of people, you're always seeing 0.8 to 1.
Yeah.
And if someone comes back with a 1.2 or a 1.4, I'm like, wow, you're a lucky kid.
Yeah.
And it just seems
lucky for what? I'd be using fake gear.
Yeah,
it is.
Just you don't seem to get anybody that gets a better reading than that. And when I've spoke to a couple of doctors that work within TRT, they don't really expect anybody to be over 1 in my experience, and that's just from people using TRT doses.
My cholesterol was the best it ever was last blood works, but I was using loads of that red yeast rice, which JP now has in his new product because he's been copying me. Red yeast rice, I think it's very fucking good, right? And it has been, there's a lot of studies on it as well showing how good it is. So, for that, it's cheap as well.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it more about the ratio of HDL to LDL rather than the actual one of them being out of order? We're kind of looking at the ratio, isn't it?
And there's a lot of science, I believe, that shows that it's more important that your LDL is low than it is your HDL is high, I believe, actually.
Yeah. So
any more?
So not really, mate. On that front, I've always kept on top of my health.
Yeah.
And I think if I did have any complications, I'd address them. Like, I think there's things more important than fucking bodybuilding.
There's only very few
going
people
back to
that
that
will
point as
suffer
well,
to
though.
the
It's just because
Jordan
the guys
suffers
ask
to
the
get
question.
very
We often like demonize bodybuilding. Like I did instance very recently, like I said.
Any more
like I explained
questions?
to you guys, where
Nathan?
I was having
What
endless
does
news
Nathan-
feeds, and I thought that was it. I was going to die. Your heart's going to blow up. It's all down to steroids. You go into the doctors, they do your blood pressure. I was perfectly fucking healthy. They couldn't believe how healthy I was. And it just turns out I had a viral infection. So like a lot of the times it's something else going on in the background. Like as long as you're on top of your health supplements, keeping your cardio in, like that big Mike Van Wyck says, like this is all a very new generational thing of I have something wrong with me. It's because I've taken steroids. I'm going to die. Does that make sense? It's like, just go to the doctor if you have concerns. Don't ignore it. It's highly probable it will be something else that's going on in your life which will cause the issue rather than what you've been doing for the past 3 or 4 years. Unless you're pushing, and I mean extremely pushing, if you've had a bodybuilding career for 4 or 5 years, you're not changed anything drastically. It's going to be something else that's causing the problem.
Yeah.
We are the Equipoise boys, apparently. Like we are that gang.
Nathan's opinion on equipoise. If you don't know, this is basically known as the Equipoise podcast.
Right. So
so you want to hear what you think?
I'm going to put it in without Callum knowing. No, I've used equipoise once before, and so I've still got all my cycles from back from 2016, 2017. I've still got all my like my logs and everything. I keep everything, so I know what I took, what I was running, how much cardio I was doing, how much food I was eating. I've still got all that. And my off-season cycle. So I competed for the first time in 2015. My off-season cycle, the first time I like pushed it properly, was the first cycle in 2016 was 750 tests, 450 EQ. And I ran Turinabol pre-workout. I think I ran 3 IU a GH, and I think I worked up to 4 IU pre and post Nova Rapid, and I went from 200 pound stage weight to 240 pound stage weight.
That's the secret, fucking
Nathan,
hell.
sorry, just to stop you there. When you say you pushed it, were you also, was that like the first time you kind
A
of
lot of success
really knuckled down to push food as well?
Cycle. I've been coached.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the first time I'd had a coach.
Yeah.
So that the first time I like went into that sort of pro mentality. I didn't do anything unless it was written down. Like if he'd have told me to run through a fucking brick wall, I would have run through a brick wall. And that's the first time that I adopted that approach. So, and that was the first time I'd done anything over like even my cycle. Like I think my first cycle when I competed, I did 300 mega test, 300 mega mass, 300 mega tread, and that was my cycle Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 100 of each. So that was the first time I'd like actually had a proper cycle as well. I mean, I've had coaches like post my first coach, and we've never used like EQ since, just because it's kind of out of fashion, isn't it? And people have got a stigma against it at the minute. But I've listened to a lot of things on EQ, and I think it's just a very, very misunderstood steroid. I think there's quite a lot of benefits to it. I mean, I listened to Derek More Plates, More Dates podcast on it. There's a couple of other good ones out there. And you've just got to look at what the fucking Americans are doing. They've got it in their cycles.
That's what Hilly always says.
Honestly, Nathan, right, I'm a huge proponent of it, and I always have been. And the fact that it got demonised by one person from studies on rabbits blows my fucking mind. And AJ Sims, who I work with, he uses it. Matt Johnson is a huge fan of it. Chris Aceto, Chad Nichols, and I'm like, if everybody at the top fucking level uses this drug, right, and there's no real bad medical literature on it, and people have been using it for decades, why all of a sudden a handful of people don't like to use it blows my fucking mind.
Yeah.
Without any, like, if me, you, Deck, Jordan, if there was loads of people with blood work, right, that was flashing up, fucking hell, every time we see someone on EQ, the blood work shit, then I would completely understand it. But I don't know about you, but I don't ever see anybody's blood work any differently stressed, whether they're using equipoise, Decker, or anything else.
Well,
there isn't this.
I did actually say to Callum Hilly, like, so we've kind of like mapped my cycle out like up until like September, October, and the primo don't. Even though I'm running higher tests now, because after my last blood work, my estrogen always runs super, super high, and I don't really get any sides from it, which is good for building muscle. It's good for insulin sensitivity. Like, the higher I can run it without any sides, fucking fire away. Like, let's crack on. But I've always ran, well, since I've been with Cal, I've always ran like higher DHT derivative than my testosterone. But this time round, because my estrogen was a lot lower than normal, we've pushed my test up higher, and my primo sat lower. But it's still going to escalate over the coming months, and it's still going to end up higher than my test. And I just fucking don't feel comfortable again jabbing that amount of volume. It gets daft. So I'd rather.
It's not good for you.
I'd rather pop in some EQ, which is 300 mg per mil or whatever it is, and
it makes so much sense.
Yeah, and just cut that oil volume down for one. So I did speak to him about it at the start of the cycle.
Everybody.
Some people,
I'd stepped it a little bit, but we'll see.
some people actually get an anti-estrogenic effect from EQ.
Everybody does. It's a fantastic. I've found in blood work, EQ seems to have a better AI control than Primo or Masteron in my experience.
Yeah,
Without a shadow of a doubt.
So if you listen to that, I don't know if you've listened to it, but if you listen to that that More Plates, More Dates podcast on EQ,
Yeah.
I can't remember. I'm not going to profess to know because I can't remember directly how he explained it.
It competes for it, doesn't it? So it controls the estrogen effectively. So it keeps the ratio of testosterone or free testosterone higher comparable to EQ. So that's what Masteron doesn't do, or the DHT derivatives don't do. That's why it seems to be more effective at controlling aromatization.
Yeah. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a great drug. Yeah, I've always liked it. To a lot of the coaches out there who keep saying that it's not a good drug, but they use Tren.
And I think, like we discussed previously, it's like I think it really comes into play where you're at in terms of muscularity. Like when you're a bigger dude, you start talking about the 750 megs, gram a test, that sort of stuff. Higher volumes of oil. You kind of want to use something like EQ to reduce that, just rather than put in a boatload of Primo, which you'll need. What was it that Derek said? It was a ridiculous ratio. It was like 8-1 for Primo to control 1,000 milligram of test or something like that. It was crazy. Where he says the EQ is like 3.2 to 1 or something like that. So it just makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Bro, it's not 9 mil Primo or 3 mil fucking EQ. Do you know what I mean? It's common sense.
In what I've seen, literally, right, 450 or 500 mg of equipoise, which is like 1.5 mil, seems to be enough to cover most people up to like 900 or a gram of test, to keep it okay. Whereas you would literally need, which is 1.5 mil, where you would literally need 10, 11, 12 mil of Primo to get the same.
Well, that's what mine will end up at, Hilly, 12 mil.
Yeah, and when you think about it, right, I mean, cost for a start, even if you're getting your gear at cheap cost, there's still an exponential more cost. Then the stress of the oil going in your body and doing the jabs, and then not just that, there is shit in everything that we inject. There's the heavy metals and everything that comes with it, and that all has stress and toxicity on the body. And equipoise is an easier drug to inject because it comes in liquid form. I just think there's all of these positives and the fact that it does so much for so little compared to having to do so much of something else is never just made any sense to me. Now, obviously, if you put a bit in there and it comes back and your red blood cell counts through the fucking roof and whatnot, then it's not for you. But the funny thing for me is I've run equipoise on and off forever, and I've never seen my hemoglobin go over that 170 mark. I always sit on the same spot. The only time I've ever seen my hemoglobin and hemocrat go high is when I took fucking Cardarine Sam during a cruise to try and fix my HDL. The only time I've ever seen. Honest to God, I have never needed to let blood right in my entire life. And AJ was like, put Cardarine in. That might sort your HDL. And I was on a fucking cruise and I checked my blood in the cruise and I was like, I've been taking steroids almost 20 years and this is the first time my hemo has been elevated. It was nuts. I thought, I'm either not partying enough anymore because I've got a baby, or this car ring is just not for fucking me.
But like I've said before as well, if you're taking 900 mgs of Primo, that's 9 mil oil,
Nate
right?
wants that. It's
or
less
3
fucking
mil
food.
EQ. Surely that 9 mil is going to have more calories in it as well, because that is more oil, right? Your body has to metabolize it somehow. It's not.
Yeah.
Dave, just your opinion, anecdotal
true.
Coming away from science.
I mean, in prep, I don't
what
think
benefits do you see from Primo?
The calories are going to be fucking minimal. If you're talking.
Okay.
So I've ran again, Primo, the first time that I ran Primo was with Cal, and I did notice. The thing is, we're running that much. I say I noticed the difference.
It's so hard to tell.
It's so hard to fucking tell because you're running that. Like I'm running Lantus, I'm running Nova Rapid, I've put growth hormone in it. Like there's that many other things that I'm running. Can't say that Primo was the be all and end all. That I saw some more like fullness and roundness and poppiness to the muscle. I feel like you get a drier, harder look from Mastron. I feel like you get a little bit more strength with Mastron as well. So it's one of those.
I don't think Primo gives you that much. I just think it's a healthier way of getting what you can get from other things for some people. That's the way I see it. Like, you know, if someone wants to grow, but they don't want the water retention, then you can use higher Primo instead of NPP or Deca. I think there's a lot of benefits that come to it if you're looking at things in a healthier way and you want to balance the cycle out. But I think in general, you can get a lot more bang for your buck from other drugs as long as you don't get the sides to them. For me, I think that's... So if I've got a client that needs to stay dry for whatever reason and doesn't get on with Nandrolone, then Primo's a great choice. You know, if you've got someone that gets the mental side effects from it, then there's loads of benefits that way. I just don't think in terms of all out...
On EQ. There are certain things I notice off of EQ that I don't with Primo, meaning Primo is kind of like you take it and nothing happens. And I get that you don't really want the kind of effects, because a lot of these effects are like side effects, but because like obviously the vascularity comes from increase in red blood cell and things like that. So ideally you don't really want that. But in a way, as bodybuilders, we do.
Yeah, and I think that's why I asked the question. Is like, obviously I haven't got a massive experience on cycles, if that makes sense, and I used Primo very early on, and I saw a huge difference in like fullness and roundness. I hate MPP, so I never touched this stuff. But then I think that was my first time experience like the so-called nitrogen retention. But obviously that was, I think me and Hilly put it in around 300 megs and upped it to 600. But from there, it just seems to be a point of diminishing returns. Like I get nothing else from escalating from 600 to a gram from it. I don't seem to see any benefits in fullness, performance, all that sort of stuff. I don't get any serious weight gain from or anything like that. So I was just interested to hear everyone's opinions, because I think as well, it's a safer use model.
I think, this is literally what I was just about to touch on. I think what you got to understand now is there's that much information out there, and with the bodybuilding industry, it's trends, and the safer use protocol and the safer use model has been pushed in the UK, which is great that we are taking more note of his health and stuff like that, and how we're sort of managing his cycles and his health. But because that narrative's been pushed so for the last few years, and Primo's been the drug of choice, and it's been put out there, that's what we should do, and we're supposed to do, and everything else gets demonized because we shouldn't be doing that, we should be doing EQ. So I think it's just one of those trends.
I think you'll find that trend change now. Jordan is pushing again.
Yeah, I mean, if Jordan uses a drug and puts it on his log, I can guarantee you the sales of that drug will fucking go up.
Yeah,
they love it.
And he is now he'll use EQ. Jordan will happily use EQ, and he always has done at higher doses, because he can't get all of the oil in. He doesn't want the oil in, and he knows the benefits of the anti-worms in effect. So, and that's what I say. It's exactly as Nathan says, in terms of how trends swing. You watch Jordan's log, you watch what he posts. Jordan is back to pushing his bodybuilding, he's back to pushing his weight, and everything in the trend will swing now.
Have we got any more questions for Nathan, Chuds?
Yeah, just on the safer use note, to kind of add, I think it's gone in like the opposite direction a little bit, where a lot of people are now trying to be safe, but almost like they're like, oh, I won't take 400 mgs of test, I'll take 200. And it's kind of like, well, if you're just going to take 200, at that point, you're kind of just wasting your time. You're kind of just shutting yourself down for no fucking reason. Because, we're not saying take a gram, but people are almost being too conservative in some aspects.
Yeah. If you're going to go on, you might as well go on. Especially if you are a young, fit, healthy male, mid-20s, and your natural testosterone is sitting at 20 plus. What's the fucking point in taking 200 milligrams of testosterone?
honestly, I keep saying it over and over again. Why on earth would you technically risk an infection by injecting yourself, buy the gear to then barely put yourself over natural range, and then 8 weeks down the line be like, well, these steroids are shit. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not getting through. It's like, well, because you're barely changing your hormone dose. You actually, bear in mind what we discussed before, you're actually lowering your HDL. You're risking an infection to barely put yourself anywhere. I've actually seen 2 people do consultations with me where they had their natural test at like 27, 26. It was high. And then they've watched some idiot on Instagram, right, that says you should start low as possible. Took 150 or 200. The stuff's been slightly underdosed and they've ended up lower than they fucking were naturally. And I'm like, my good fucking Lord, like, there's so much, like you say, it's gone so far the wrong way, it ends up being stupid.
Do you think it's the pendulum's now swung to, rather than the safer use model, it's the mainstream model? Like, if you think back 5 years ago, like, everybody who took anabolics wanted to be massive. It's now like commonplace now, like you're just part of this cool cult that you take a little bit of gear and go to the gym and weigh 180 pounds soaking wet and make mad reels all day. It's like, it's a really weird change in, like, it's a completely different world, isn't it?
Well, what
Mate,
was
you
funny
see on
was
TikTok, there's kids on TikTok that don't even fucking go to the gym, but they're like, trend this, and you're like, bro, you're like 140 pounds. Some kid was like, he was 16.
Wait, don't disrespect me, bruv.
He was he put a video up and he goes, oh yeah, I'm 16 and I'm on gear, and it's like, you're 16. Fuck me, like, and he weren't big or anything like that. It's just like, what's the point? Like,
and it's like for years, right? We all know this. For about 30 years, if you read anywhere in the world on any internet thing or spoke to anybody, the first cycle was always 400 or 500 mega test. That's what everybody did, which in reality makes all of the sense in the world. If 150 to 200 is a TRT dose, then by common fucking sense, surely you would want to start at about double that. And that was just, it didn't matter where you read or who you spoke to, that's what everybody said to do. And that Broderick Chavez, I always pronounce his name wrong, but he's such a clever kid. He posted something before that once you go over 400 or 500 mg, it affects the muscle fibers differently or something. So you're getting a different scope of progress. And he was like, this is why your start cycle should be there. Now, we can then be super clever and be like, well, maybe we should use the 500 mg, but maybe we should have 300 mg of test and 200 mg of something else. I'm all about that. But just taking the lowest dose possible so you get no results is just fucking backwards, isn't it?
Yeah, I like Broderick. I do like Broderick. He's in the UK, you know, Hilly.
Is he?
Yeah, he's doing a seminar. He sent me some T-shirts and stuff over. He asked me to be on. He asked me to be on his podcast actually next week.
I'm a huge fan of him.
12th of August at Strom Sports headquarters. He's doing a seminar.
Right.
Oh, sick.
I might try and
So
get
I'm going to try and get on that.
Oh, isn't that though? Isn't that when the True thing's on?
Let's have a look.
oh, what, the True Athlete?
I'm not sure. It's basically 10 till 3, which is it's a seminar covering PED strategies for bodybuilding.
We're at the True thingy with Jordan.
Oh, fuck me! Oh, it's the same weekend, isn't it?
It's the same weekend.
11th till 13th.
Yeah.
That's the new Arnold chuds.
Yeah.
Because I am a huge fan of Broderick. Like, not only is he so clever, the way he speaks, although it's sarcastic as fuck, it's so to the bone, straight.
He's so pedantic about his language, isn't it? Like, someone will ask him a question and he'll literally correct their fucking English before he answers the question.
But it's just, he's so to the point, he gets rid of all of the bullshit. It's how I try and be. There's a lot of logic with what he says. There's a lot of common sense. There's a lot of anecdotal. But he actually has all of the science to go with everything he says because he is educated and clever as fuck. I just think he has the perfect balance of what we all want. Like, listen, this is what the fucking science says. This is what we've been doing for 30 years. Anything else, you're just a moron. And that's how he says it. And I'm like, this is all anybody needs to fucking hear.
He uses
It's all anybody needs to hear.
is good, like an analogy to explain something that's actually potentially quite a difficult concept. So actually explain it quite simply.
And he puts on it, you can like, I can put this shit on a post-it note. You don't need anything else that's not on that post-it note. And I'm like, I've got a lot of time for that.
His content on exogenous growth hormone is fucking awesome. It's the best out there, especially with how it interacts with the body, blood sugars, that sort of stuff. I would advise everybody to go and watch it if you can. He did a whole podcast on it.
I try and make sure I listen to he does like a weekly Q&A, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And I try and make sure I listen to all of them. Just because, to be honest, I like the way he speaks. It's funny in an educational way. He's a really, really clever guy.
Not like Victor Black, who just rips everyone and gets upset.
I'd love to shoot that dude in the fucking head.
We got any more questions for Nathan while he's on?
This next question, I sent it to you guys on a group chat. I'm not sure if we should even answer because it's a bit pointless, really, because it's kind of. But I'll just read it anyway. But we can probably redirect it a little bit. So the question is: how delusional is Joe Ballinger thinking he's going to become a pro in classic physique and compete at the O? So obviously, it's a bit of a redundant question, right? But
I think what he's saying is he'll go pro in bodybuilding and then compete at classic to get to the Olympics. And it's funny because I had like a very similar question about another group of people who've gone pro in men's physique who are going up to classic in bodybuilding. So it's obviously a common trend across the industry, this with that very similar group of people. So
is that what he's trying to do though? Is he trying to go pro in bodybuilding?
Yeah,
and then
he's basically saying he's too heavy as an amateur. So if he can blag a pro card in open, he will be able to make weight in classic because he has an extra £10, if I'm not mistaken.
He's still going to be they still have to stretch him. I've spoken to Joe about this. So obviously you've got to have goals. And I think he's probably conceded that he's not going to be doing much in open bodybuilding. Especially if he does turn pro in bodybuilding, really, where does he stand? Because I'm fucking 300 pound and I'm not delusional. Like, I am still fucking miles away muscularity wise from being competitive. I've watched Jamie Joel over the last 5 years, and he's only just in this last year at 6'5" broken into the fucking top sixes, and that's because he's been knocking at the door and is a big sort of influence on social media. People know who he is, and he's been knocking at the door for 5 years. Like, so I know that for me, like, I'm not deluded. I'm not genetically. I haven't got round, bubbly, full muscles. Still got a lot of holes in my physique. Still not going to stop me fucking trying to progress and be the best version of myself. And for me, a win now is to crack a top 10, then potentially crack a top 8, and then potentially crack a top 6. I know I'm probably never going to win a show again, but I'm all right with that. So I think Joe's obviously realised now that the standard of young bodybuilders coming through are fucking fantastic. Like, I look at some
terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Don't you think classic is even more competitive compared to open bodybuilding?
It is, yeah, it is. But at 240 pounds, if that's what his cap is, if he can grow in it, that's kind of where his body weight is now as a super. So it probably would stand. It wouldn't look out of place on a classic pro stage.
No offense to Joe. I don't really know him, but I know of him, right? But in my opinion, me being middle ground here, I don't think his physique's classic at all. I think he's in this weird position like that Cam McKay is. He's not classic. He's not on open. He's not really anywhere.
See, I think Cam could be an open bodybuilder. Like I think Cam structurally, I think he could be an open bodybuilder. It's just time. I think. Like, I know Joe very well. You all know he's known him for years. Like, Joe's limitation is his clavicle width and his hip width. That's his problem. Like, he's not very wide through the shoulder.
It's too blocky, bro. It's too blocky.
Yeah.
You must be deluded, bro.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be competitive in classic. And I'd be confident to say there'll be no hope that he would be competitive in classic.
That's
especially
the
caliber of these guys in this day and age is just nuts.
Bro, you got these black guys. They've got the bone structure of a bikini girl and a muscle bellies of Ronnie Coleman, bro. You're not beating that.
You see the guy that just won the this last weekend show, the classic guy. He looked like he got like a classic structure, but with like open bodybuilder fucking muscularity. It's fucking mental.
He won his last show. The dude's not really got like an Instagram presence, and he just rocked in and just smoked everyone. He barely posts any photos. He hasn't got a following, and now he's gone up like I was watching it earlier. He's gone up like 15,000 followers in 4 weeks on Instagram, and he's just won the Spain show as well.
Let the results speak, innit? That's it.
But like, take him for example. He's got the structure, but he's also so fucking muscular. He just looks mental.
It's what it is, isn't it? You can't have in classic. What I've noticed is you can't have extremely dominant backs. Joe's not got a small back, and that carries a lot of weight, that back, and it takes up a lot of your scale weight, which you have to compete in. A lot of the classic guys aren't necessarily dense. They're wide in their clavicles, and they have muscle hanging off them. But it's very rare you see someone that has a very, very dense back because it takes up a lot of weight. It's normally, from the way it looks like judging's going to me, they want huge fucking legs and almost like a men's physique upper body.
Do you know what now? Do you know what the thing is with classic now? And I can tell you this from a head judge. The classic judging criteria is changing, and it is literally, it shouldn't, but what they're saying now is just get as big and as fucking dense and as lean as you can within your weight cap.
Yeah.
That is literally
it's small bodybuilders, isn't it?
That's just what they want you to be. They're just going to judge you on being the most muscular, the most dense, and the leanest. Because I've seen some people win classic shows, and you think, well, he's not really that. He's not really that classic. He's just the leanest and the biggest.
Which
and
is a
as
shame,
long as
really,
you're under
isn't
the
it?
cap, then you fit the criteria.
Which is a shame, really, isn't it? Because the idea of classic was always to follow the shape. But I suppose if that's the way, if Joe knows that's the way it's going, then maybe over time that does stand in more of a chance. Because if he does have the extra £10 to put on, and he makes sure he focuses on and I suppose this is the key part, isn't it? If he makes sure he puts that £10 on exactly where it needs to be.
That's thing, Gilly. He hasn't got £10 to put on. He's
Not
what
even
he's saying is that would be his classic cap at what he is now. So he's got no more room. He's got no more room to grow. So his stage weight last year was like £245. So he'd even have to come down another like 4 or 5 pounds to hit the classic cap.
Which gives him no room to alter his physique at all.
So
does it?
I mean, he's off season. He can't put any muscle on. He's just got to fucking.
He's stuck. He's stuck. That's what I'm saying. He's not either class. He's stuck.
So surely he just really needs to focus on putting Nathan Styles type of fucking tissue on, doesn't he? Really, and just fucking accept that he needs to put that work in.
Not everyone's got the bollocks to do that, have they?
Yeah.
Apparently he can't eat. He can't eat enough. That's what people were saying.
He puts a lot of food away, doesn't he?
Yeah,
puts a fucking lot of food away.
He's got a lot of miles on the clock as well, mind Joe. You got to remember, like he's been in this game for a long fucking time since that really gay category was taken off, and at Miami Beach, whatever it's called, I don't know.
What was it called? Muscle model.
Yeah, that's it, with the funny little pants. But like he's got a lot of miles on the clock, and I think probably due to his age, you just kind of get to a point again of diminishing returns, don't you? Like, how hard can I possibly push for 1-2 pounds a year? Do you know what I mean?
He's one, Nathan. Over the years, with you putting all of the tissue that you have done on, has your food been higher than it is now, or have you always been about here when you've peaked?
This will be the highest. I mean, I've probably still got room for a little bit more, just over 7,000. But each year's been 6, 6.2, 6.4, 6.5, like 6.6. It's always been around 6,500 calories.
So I suppose that's for you. I suppose that's pretty good, isn't it, to get to your weight on that food? Because I know some people I've spoken to that do not have anywhere near your muscle have had to try and force higher than that and still haven't got to where you have with your level of, because I mean, you've got fucking so much muscle tissue, and I would have expected you to maybe say you've pushed a fair bit higher than that, to be honest. So I suppose that stands you in good stead, doesn't it? That you will have the ability to keep going where a lot of people might not, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's the runway that I've got for food and drugs.
Yeah.
To be fair, because I've not pushed drugs. This will be my highest cycle. Like, I've only been up to like just over 2 gram. My peak off season and peak peak like prep. So this will be the highest.
So
I'll probably be running this up to like 2.4, 2.5 this off season.
So really, and how old are you at the moment?
35.
So you've still got a lot of places to fucking push, really, don't you? Which is quite a scary thought, considering you were 290 pound on stage before.
Yeah, I mean,
It just shows, though, doesn't it? Like, Nave's head's in the right place. Like, Nave's enjoyment is, like he said, getting top 10, top 8, top 5. I think a lot of the, let's say, the other group of people don't want that. They kind of want the fame and the glory and the Instagram clout and hype, don't they, very quickly. And I think they try and look for the fastest route rather than enjoying what the origins of bodybuilding is, which is just making improvements, getting stuck in and continuing doing what you love to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just consistency over time, and I'm not under any illusion like where I'm going to end up, but I know that I can keep improving, and I know I've still got scope to improve and be better year after year. Wherever that lands me, it lands me. But as long as I can keep improving, and
That's a really good way to look at it.
There's a lot of scope for you to keep growing, is what I'm looking at there, though. Like,
definitely. Yeah, there definitely is. And like, I've got the opportunity now. Like, I've got the opportunity of doing things that I never fucking thought that I would have had the opportunity to do. Whether that be competing abroad, networking with different people. Right, if I can say when I hang my pants up at 40, say, in the next 5 years, that I've done 15 pro shows or fucking whatever.
That would be awesome, yeah.
Like, that's a fucking...
And got better and better and better through every one.
Yeah.
Talking of people with loads of runoff, I was just watching the last YouTuber, that Uris, that classic guy, Uris.
Yeah.
Oh, 265 pounds. His training day food. Huh?
I swear he said 275.
Yeah, it might be 275, but his training day food is 3,600 calories. I'm fucking high on that.
But bro, that shows you how efficient his body is at breaking down that protein and shuttling what needs to be shuttled, right?
Or is he making so much money he can sit on his ass and play computer games the whole day with doing no cardio? I was having this argument with myself earlier, like, is he not moving and eating that much food, or is he just hypergenetic?
Yeah, but I bet you if we did that because like you can do that, but I don't think you're going to look better necessarily.
No.
Some people just, and this is why I was so interested with what Nathan, how high his food's been, because some people seem to just grow on raw food. What's the there's a kid that got beat. What's the well-known bodybuilder in England that got beaten up in the gym? Aaron Hudson.
Aaron Hudson.
Yeah. I've spoke to him on and off for an awfully long period of time, right? And he's pushed the drug side a fair bit, but considering the weight he's been to and the size he was, his food's never been astronomically high at all. And it always used to just blow my mind. Like, I know where I've forced food to. I mean, I've got digestive issues, but I've known where I've pushed my food to. I've known where I've pushed clients' food to. And for him to get to that size he did, and I'm sure it was never on more than 4,000 or 5,000 calories. And then I expected Nate to say that he'd been up to 7,000 or 8,000 calories. Because like, I know Jordan at one point was force feeding 9,000 calories a day, God, ridiculous amounts. So I know that like a lot of bigger guys have had to go extremely high with food. Yeah. And 6,000 to 7,000 is obviously high, but for a gentleman that has as much muscle as Nate does,
and is very tall as well.
Yeah,
you know what I
mean? That's not a lot of actual food, is it, for someone that's 290 fucking pounds on stage?
Last year, Mark Hector. I remember seeing his diet, and he was like 4,800 calories, like at his peak, and he was pushing like 310.
Yeah, Mark doesn't eat a lot.
Bro, Matt Balmer's eating more than Nathan Styles at the moment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Matt Balmer eats fucking food.
So, do you know what I mean? It shows you, doesn't it, though? That's how...
It just shows how much... And it just shows how much room there is and potential there is for more progress for Nate, doesn't it, there?
That's what I'm trying to compare,
Yeah. That there is an awful lot more of growing still to get, which is mind-blowing for someone that's already 290 pounds on fucking stage.
Which is scary, because fucking it's not nice carrying this around. I can tell you, it's not. Yeah, it's not.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
What was Jamie peak off season, Nathan?
Do you know what I thought? I watched YouTuber Jamie's. Well, it was actually Jamie and that Matt Does Fitness the other day. I watched, they did like an eating
Oh yeah,
challenge.
I saw that.
10K one, 10K calories.
Yeah. And I thought Jamie had been above 350, but he said that his peak off season was 343 pounds. But I'm sure he'd been heavier than that. That's what I weighed this morning. I was 343.
Is that what you were now?
I'm Jamie's biggest fan, like physique-wise. I literally love his physique. It's kind of what I would want to look like if I could look like any pro, probably just with a bigger back. But do you think structurally, like to me, we had this discussion about you last week, I think. Like, do you think your body is capable of holding more muscle than Jamie's, though, and being more competitive in a sense? Like, he's extremely streamlined and holds more of a classic structure. I think you have more of a wider structure and a denser physique. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know. Because you never look at yourself that way. Like, I still look at myself and I looked at myself this morning after I'd done cardio and I did a round of posing, and I said to Phoebes, I just look skinny fat. Like, I'm fucking 24 and a half stone. Like, I've still got abs and striated quad. I suppose it's different how you look at yourself,
perceive yourself. Yeah.
Because
I think you do. I agree with Dick. Like, when I look at your pictures, you don't look like a taller bodybuilder, if that makes sense. You have much more of a dense look. Yeah.
You're built like a short man, but you're tall.
If that makes sense.
Do you know what I mean? As in, what I'm trying to say is, the smaller guys, they're very like compact. Like Gomez is compact. Nathan's compact but tall. You don't really get that. It's normally very gappy. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, it's weird because I think what you usually find with a tall guy, they've either got really long legs or they've got a really long torso. Or I just feel like my height's proportioned quite evenly.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm tall, but I'm not overly like gangly in one place. Like, I've not got really long legs, or I've got a longer torso. Everything's quite evenly. And like,
a lot of tall guys struggle with
arms
legs.
are not. Yeah,
your legs are a strong point.
Arms ain't too long either.
No, but my arms are shit as well. I don't know if it's true. I've always had shoulder issues. I've not pressed above my head for a while. I started pressing above my head because I found a machine that feels nice. And I feel like the shoulder issues has been why I can't connect not properly, but why I've not sort of been able to develop my arms as much as what I would have liked. Because I think arms are definitely a weakness for me. Something that
are you doing anything different then to bring those up now?
I'm just more frequency. So I'll do biceps before legs, which is like I do a rest pause set, and then I'll do a muscle round before I do legs, because my volume on my leg sessions is quite low because they respond to low volume. Like all last off season, I only ever did like 4 working sets on quads. Oh. Like I'd do 1 set of hack squat to failure, 1 set of leg press to failure, 2 sets of leg extension, and everything else was like hamstring work. So I've still get a response from sort of like minimum leg work, so I can put some arms before legs, and then I'll do biceps on my pull day, and I'll do triceps on my push day.
But Nathan, just to make it clear to like some of the viewers who they might misinterpret what you're trying to say, your 4 working sets are to the death, right?
Yeah, right. 4 working sets, I'm fucking smoked. Like it's like 1 to like Dorian, how Dorian would train it. It'd probably do 1 to 3, maybe 4 like warm up sets, and then that working set is all out failure and beyond. Which it might be like a rest pause set on a leg press. So it might be like a 15 to 20 seconds rest, go again to failure, 20 seconds rest, go again to failure. Like I'm fucking falling out of the leg press. And same with my hack squat. I'm taking it to the limit,
to the death.
But that's just because I can do 1 set of leg extensions, and like you should. Like I've spoke to you and I've listened to you say before, like you can do 1 set of leg extensions and your quads are on. Like It's,
Yeah, I don't do a lot of volume quads, yeah, because I just connect with them well. So yeah, we had that chat last time, didn't we? It's exactly the same, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know I don't think I'd be able to handle because I get that much of a connection on them. I don't think I'd be able to handle taking them to failure with a lot more volume.
Yeah, it starts to cramp. Almost like you can't even, like, your knees start to hurt just because they're so pumped.
Yeah,
it's my CNS it takes to hammer it. And like I said, I recently have started pulling like leg press out and put squats on a separate day, just because when you can't roll your legs, it just destroys my CNS. Like you said about SLDLs, I do 2-3 sets of squats. That's an hour of my time in the gym.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah,
because when we get so strong, it takes fucking ages to warm up.
Have you got a last question? Then we'll wrap it up.
I got a fantastic question.
I'll try and
from one of my clients.
Go on then, Dave.
I got a fantastic question
I've
from one of my
literally
clients.
got about 45 more questions, so we'll be here all night. So yeah, go on.
This one's a bit of a stupid one, but it did make me laugh. Who would win a fight, Cocaine Bear or Nath on Anadrol?
Have you seen
Cocaine Bear?
No, I haven't watched it yet, but I do need to.
What is that?
Oh, you need to watch it.
It's actually good.
It's a film based on a true story, isn't it? Like there was an actual helicopter that went down, and a bear fucking like induced like tons of cocaine or something. He went on a rampage. Yeah.
It's on Netflix.
I'll have to watch that then if it's
This
more.
Yeah, that's it. That's Nate.
That's it.
Oh,
bro, it's such
good
a good
start, coach.
Yeah, sorry, that was a funny question. You carry on, Chuds. What have you got?
Right, last one, Chuds.
Right, let's get a decent one. More like actually for Nathan as well, because just a load of them are just like generic questions. Oh, that's a good one. Training philosophies as a taller bodybuilder. How does he feel he stacks up genetic potential wise? Oh, I think we just answered that pretty much, didn't we?
Yeah, next one.
Can training solo reach the level of failure required versus training with a partner? So training solo, training with a partner. Let's just fire that quick. Train by yourself, train with someone else.
Depending on the person.
Oh, that's a good one. It's a lot more common these days for open bodybuilders to be 300 plus pounds in the off season. Do you think as time goes on, that number is going to continue going up? Or do you think 300 is the peak?
Well, I don't fucking know.
It's 340, so it's not the peak, is it?
No.
They said nobody would ever deadlift 500. If someone did that, then someone broke it as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So people are always going to push the boundaries, aren't they? Like people are just going to get bodybuilding. People are just going to get bigger and bigger, and I mean, there's always going to be a limit, but no.
I just want to sort of see some of these classic guys at 300 pound, or these men's physique guys. I just want to see them go absolutely ham for a year or two and just rocking it like 260 on stage to see what they're like absolute freaks.
Well, we see that with that. What's this guy? The black guy, Jones something.
Lord Jones, yeah. Yeah, but he doesn't count because his bones are made of fucking paper mache.
He's got hollow bones. Like he looks 300 pounds and he's like 230 or something like that.
Yeah,
you lot are racist, man. You keep saying hollow bones about the black people, bro.
Yeah, right, so realistically, though, what would you say would be your like weight to that you're kind of comfortable to push, and then you get to a certain weight and you're like, right, that's enough. Because Jamie had that, didn't he? He kind of was like, look, if I'm gonna keep pushing, I need to go push to like 350, 360, and I'm not comfortable doing that because I know what I'm gonna have to do. Have you got a limit like that?
No, because as long as my blood work checks out, it goes on how you feel. Like,
yeah,
as long as I can still function. Like off season's hard, regardless on how much you weigh, who you are, how long you've been in it. If you're pushing food, you're pushing drugs, you're pushing training, and you get a little bit uncomfortable, off season's hard. So it's all relative to that individual. So I've not got a limit. I mean, don't get me wrong, another 7 pounds from where I am now is probably not going to be that fucking comfortable at 350. But it's just as long as my digestion, my sleep, my recovery, and my composition doesn't go to shit, then just keep rolling
where were the focus points, Dave, after your last show? What's the week? I know you mentioned your arms. Where were sort of you and Cal's strategic plans to really blow up to be as competitive as possible?
Yeah, I mean, my back needs to come up massively. Like the posterior needs to come up, like posterior thickness. Even though it is coming on now. Like I will set my check-in shots this weekend, and like I can just tell now, just like even in my like rear relaxed shot, like there's just more muscle there. And it's just a case of just keep improving that posterior thickness, arms and delts, chest, everything upper body really, like to match my legs. Like my glutes and my quads are a massive strong point. My hamstrings come up a lot last year. Like my hamstrings are pretty solid now. My calves are shite, but
we've all got shit calves.
Yeah, that's just a genetic thing.
Your calves are shit. My calves are better than yours.
Right, I'll slap you up.
So yeah, it's just keep improving everywhere, but more top line and posterior.